Here's a diplomatic bombshell that could either diffuse a brewing international crisis or expose the stark contradictions in America's war on drugs. Venezuela's embattled leader, Nicolas Maduro, has penned a direct letter to President Trump, desperately attempting to open diplomatic channels just days after deadly U.S. military strikes rocked his nation. But here's where it gets controversial. The timing of this diplomatic outreach raises uncomfortable questions about who really holds the moral high ground in this escalating conflict. Following a devastating U.S. military operation that claimed the lives of 11 Venezuelans aboard what American officials alleged was a drug trafficking vessel, Maduro made an unprecedented move. The Venezuelan president reached out directly to Trump through a formal letter, seeking to establish dialogue with Special Envoy Richard Grenell. This diplomatic gesture came exactly 4 days after the September 2nd strike that sent shockwaves through the region. Vice President Delcy Rodriguez publicly shared Maduro's correspondence via Telegram, and CNN independently verified the letter's authenticity through a knowledgeable U.S. source. In his message, Maduro vehemently rejects accusations of involvement in narcotics trafficking, dismissing these claims as nothing more than fabricated news stories disseminated across multiple media platforms. He extends what appears to be a genuine olive branch, proposing an honest and straightforward dialogue with your designated special representative. And this is the part most people miss. The U.S. military has conducted additional strikes against high-speed vessels in recent days, pushing the total casualty count beyond a dozen individuals who American authorities claim were drug smugglers. However, here's what should make every citizen pause and think. The White House has yet to present definitive evidence or intelligence documentation that conclusively proves these victims were actually engaged in criminal activities. When pressed by reporters on Sunday about whether he had received Maduro's diplomatic overture, Trump remained characteristically evasive, simply stating, "We'll see what happens with Venezuela." Both Grenell's representatives and Venezuelan government spokespersons have maintained strict silence regarding the contents and implications of this correspondence. The current administration has painted Maduro as one of the planet's most significant narcotics kingpins, alleging his collaboration with criminal cartels to saturate American streets with deadly fentanyl-contaminated cocaine. This August, officials dramatically escalated the stakes by doubling the bounty for his capture to a staggering $50 million. But is this justice or simply political theater? The mounting friction between these two nations has prompted Washington to deploy naval warships throughout the Caribbean region, ostensibly as part of an anti-drug trafficking mission. Yet Maduro and his supporters view this military presence through a completely different lens, characterizing it as a thinly veiled attempt at orchestrating regime change, an accusation that carries uncomfortable historical weight given America's track record in Latin America. Venezuela's response has been swift and dramatic. The nation has launched extensive military training exercises while prominently displaying its Russian-manufactured fighter aircraft in what many interpret as a calculated show of strength. Maduro's government claims to have activated millions of civilian militia members, though independent verification of these numbers remains elusive. Perhaps most intriguingly, Maduro's letter includes what he describes as irrefutable evidence regarding narcotics manufacturing and distribution networks, that he claims definitively proves Venezuela operates as a territory completely free from drug production activities. Whether this data will prove compelling or merely propaganda remains to be seen. I respectfully extend an invitation to you, Mr. President, to champion peace through meaningful dialogue and reciprocal comprehension across our entire hemisphere, Maduro writes in his correspondence, striking a tone that seems almost pleading given the circumstances. Richard Grenell, Trump's former ambassador to Germany, who now serves as special envoy, has established a curious working relationship with Maduro through multiple face-to-face meetings throughout this year. These encounters have successfully secured the freedom of American citizens wrongfully imprisoned in Venezuela, achieved through complex prisoner exchanges involving hundreds of Venezuelan migrants whom the White House had previously relocated to El Salvador. On Tuesday, in what many viewed as a surprising shift in tone, Grinnell publicly advocated for reducing tensions in this dangerous confrontation, expressing his belief that the United States and Venezuela can still reach an agreement to prevent military conflict. But here's the million-dollar question that nobody in Washington wants to address. If the U.S. is genuinely committed to fighting drug trafficking, why hasn't it provided transparent evidence of these alleged crimes? And if Maduro truly possesses proof of his country's innocence, why hasn't this data been independently verified by international observers? What do you think? Is this diplomatic outreach a genuine attempt at peace, or a desperate ploy by a cornered dictator? More importantly, should the American public demand concrete evidence before our military takes lives in foreign waters? The answers to these questions could determine whether we're witnessing the beginning of diplomatic resolution or the prelude to another costly international intervention.